am with Stephen Weinberg.
Welcome to my house.
It's a pleasure to be here, Stephen. You're an artist and a writer, and we're here to talk about your favorite tackle, and I see you brought a couple of rods and a bag. So what should we start with?
Let's start with the bag. It's right here. I just kind of like a big fishing bag. This is like the thing that I either transport in my car or it's in my studio. And it's just one of those Ella Bean bags that's waterproof. And I've painted on it because I tend to paint on all kinds of things.
Yeah.
I got a cutty on the back and a brookie on the front.
Nice.
And it's kind of where, I mean, it's a black hole. Like, what do I have? I have like rock climbing clips in here. That's probably not the safest thing. I even have some saltwater flies. Like it's, you never quite know.
Exactly.
You always want to be over-prepared.
Yeah.
That's always my thought.
I agree. I have a rod case that I put all my stuff in because that way I can be sure when I get to the water, I haven't forgotten anything. But, I mean, you're laughing, but I had, times when I got to the river, I was so excited. I wanted to put on my reel and fish, and I had just forgotten the reel. So,
it happens.
That's
sad. I'm kind of like a maximalist and a minimalist back and forth. So I love having like a giant bag that I can throw everything into. And then otherwise, like this is my most like basic setup.
Yeah.
Where I really like the loon ones where it's just like the little slide on.
Yep.
For the hemostats or clip, whatever you want to call these.
Yeah.
Just these are my favorite snips so far. I like how it's yellow.
Yeah.
I do like color.
Yeah.
And then just some 5X.
Yeah.
That's what
5X is your go-to?
Yeah. And the Catskills, there's not a ton of a need for more or less.
Yeah.
I think it's not on you if the fish aren't taking it.
Yeah.
There's other conditions.
Yeah. And then do you just fish, I don't know, 8-9 feet of 5X, or do you have like a tapered leader, or what's your setup?
Yeah, it's about, I actually like, Orvis sells 12 feet of 5X, and I'll often just get that one as like a little cheat and start with that. And then once it gets to about 8 or 9 feet, then I'll kind of re-extend that.
Got it.
That's my sweet spot.
Yeah.
Some of the really small water, I found like you need less, because if you're casting just like in trees, you need too much.
Yeah.
But it's pretty simple.
Cool. All right. Let's take a look at the rods and reels.
All right. Well, I wanted to start with my go-to, like if there was just one.
Yep.
This might be some intense foreshortening. This is a Helios 2.
Yep.
And it's got a 3-tanned, I'm trying to hit that, I can say, reel.
Yeah.
And the rod part, and this was one of those, like, I think I got like a really basic Orvis rod like 15 years ago.
Yeah.
And I kept on breaking it. And I don't know if Orvis is still doing this, but they'll like either repair it or they'll just upgrade you.
Uh-huh.
And I've kind of like worked my way up.
Yeah.
And I just snapped the tip of this one like 3 months ago.
Yeah.
It was like a wasp in like the way I shouldn't have never try to kill a wasp with a fishing rod. Like you don't win. Yeah. And when I snapped it, I was like, oh, cool. Can I get the new like Helios 4? And they're like, that doesn't work anymore. But I got it fixed. And this really is like, I've just fished all over the country with this one. And pretty representative that like I have a PMX on here.
Uh-huh.
It's just like a really basic terrestrial, a little bit of everything.
Yeah.
This is the normal state of it where most of the legs have been chewed off by a trout.
Yeah.
And I'm like, it's still working.
Yeah. I have a favorite pattern, which is pretty similar, the Klinkhammer.
Yes.
And I like fishing it as well because you can see it, drift in the current and it sits up nicely, but it's just sort of in this surface film and it works well in most situations.
Yeah. And you can see actually I still have a little bit of some tippet on the butt there with the hook, because often, especially up here, I'll do a hopper dropper kind of setup. Yeah. And there was a great tip in the Yvon Chouinard fly fishing book of fishing like streams like where I am up in the Catskills, really high water, where you do a fly like this and then like 8 feet to 6 feet of a tippet and a nymph off that. Yeah. And it's kind of an unruly setup, but I end up doing that a lot up here where like that'll give it time to sink down.
Got it.
And then, so this reel is just so beat up. You can see it is.
It's nice. I was saying in the episode with Tom, I was saying, I like it. I like when people use their gear and you can tell, that it has been fished and you probably stumble over a couple rocks with it, but it still works, I assume.
It works. And then I was looking at, when you guys said you wanted to look at my stuff, I was like, oh, this is going to be embarrassing. Because I've been doing more saltwater than ever in my life the last year.
Yeah.
and you actually need a reel and a line.
Yeah.
It's not all crinked up.
Yeah.
Like fishing out here,
yeah,
you barely even need a reel.
Yeah, true.
So like, I love this reel.
Yeah.
But it's mainly used to hold the line.
Yeah. I mean, we'll get to the Tenkara part, right?
Yeah.
Talking about reels or not using reels, rather.
Yeah. I don't know. There was a guide that I fished with out on the West Branch, Delaware, and he liked this a lot, and I was looking for a reel.
Yeah.
And I end up doing so much where, like, I'll like something, and then I'll reach out to the owner.
Yeah.
And this guy's really cool who does 3-tanned. I've done a bunch of art at this point. He's helped me fix when things have, like, fallen off because of wear and tear. And that's where we go for, like, the most basic. Now, I'm going to point a lot while we're talking because where we are is in my house, and it's a north-south valley or east-west valley.
Yeah.
And so that way is where the brookies are.
Got it.
And that way is where the browns are.
Right.
So, like, that's the rod I use up until about here in the stream.
Yeah.
And then when I go further, I really love this fiberglass.
Yeah. It's a nice one as well. Little bat and kill reel. Is that a 3/4 weight? What is
this? Is the 3 weight and 7.5 foot.
Okay.
This is just such a wonderful rod.
Mm-hmm.
The action on it, it's just so loose.
Yeah.
It's really hard to give to somebody who's never gone fly fishing before.
Yeah.
It's like too much.
Exactly. It's too wiggly in a way. Yeah. But I agree. You know, if you know how to fish it, it's a very responsive rod as well. And if you have a fish on, you have a nice connection.
And this is what I take up, you know, like on like the little tribs and the little things further up. And yeah, this is just like the reel it comes with.
Yeah.
And it's, again, like you don't really need much of a reel.
Yeah. What kind of line do you have on there? Is it just like a double taper, I would assume?
Yeah. Just like really simple.
Yeah.
I don't go too big on fancy line because a lot of it is, it's just so simple up here.
Yeah.
And then usually this is another kind of terrestrial. This is actually pretty big. I just tied this one on because it was, I think, the only thing I had sitting. I was like going for a walk with my girls, and it was just what I had.
Yeah.
And I would cast every once in a while, and the water right now is so low.
Yeah.
I would hear it plop, and you'd see all the fish go away.
Yeah. When is the season that you would normally fish these? Like,
this summer month?
Yeah.
This summer, like in August, was great because we had like that hurricane tail came up and we got so much water.
Yeah.
Where you never know if it's going to be like a totally dry August or it has just been full.
Yeah.
Otherwise, just something small that you know, brook trout are pretty.
Yeah.
They're pretty hungry.
Yeah. Yeah. Exactly. They take whatever they see swimming by.
Yeah.
Nice little delicate setup.
Yeah, I like this one a lot.
Yeah.
And it's been really fun too when I grab this one accidentally and I go, not like fully accidentally, but it's like in the car.
Yeah.
And I've caught like, I've landed like 1.5 size trout on this. And it just feels like you have like tuna.
Yeah. Exactly. It's all about perspective in a way, right?
Yeah. And then I guess staying up in the headwaters, this is possible.
Yeah. Should I hold something? Yeah, that works.
I do a lot of Tenkara fishing
up
here, and I do a lot with new people because we own the hotel, Spruce It Inn. It's in the backyard as I'm pointing to stuff.
Yeah.
So we'll have guests who are like, I want to go fish for the first time.
Yeah.
I'm like, okay. Have you ever fished before? Like, no.
Yeah.
I'm like, well, don't get too complicated. Like, let's keep it really simple.
Yeah.
And so I've been fishing with a variety of Tenkara stuff for a while. This one is the Hane by Tenkara USA. We have an artist residency here, and Jeremy Shellhorn is the illustrator for their Tenkara, fishing guidebook.
Yeah.
And he gave me this when he came up.
Very nice.
And it's been really nice.
It's funny you say that. I once fished with Mauro Mazzo, who's a friend of the in Italy, and he introduced me to Tenkara back then pretty much, and he said exactly what you just said, that most often people, when you give them a reel and a line, they want to take more line off and cast further. Whereas he said, if you have a Tenkara rod, you can only basically roll cast or make like basic casts, which definitely helps in the beginning because you get a feel for the cast instead of, trying to make a long cast but not a very accurate cast. So I can totally see your point of giving this to newbies who probably have a much easier time with it.
Yeah, and then it kind of like all of the fundamentals get so reinforced where you have to get a little closer, which means you have to be a little quieter.
Yeah.
And then often you can see when you spook the fish.
Yeah.
Which people can't see when they're like 20 yards back.
Yeah.
I have a whole bunch of Tenkara Rodco. They had like a 7.5 foot one that I've used a bunch and just like destroyed over the years.
How long is this one?
This one is like
10. It's pretty long, yeah.
Yeah. Which is more of the traditional Tenkara.
Right.
It does well.
Yeah. I can see that.
And it's one of those when you're in that tight canopy, you think like, how can you have a rod this long?
Yeah.
Which I know where like all the trees are at this point.
Yeah.
But it is a little confusing for like new friends who are on it and we're like, why not?
Yeah. But it's a telescopic rod, right? So you could easily pack it into a bag as well and just bring it along.
Yeah. And that's one of the best parts of the Tenkara is
portability.
Well, it's a portability. And then that moment when you walk out of a fishing hole, and people always want to go like, how was it?
Yeah.
And then you don't want to blow up your spot.
Yeah.
So with the Tenkara rod, you're like, no one even knows you were fishing.
Yeah. Stealth mode. Yeah. Very nice.
And then this is my newest guy. This is going to be, all right. You hold.
I can grab this one.
Oh, yeah. Perfect. Yeah. This is a new Catskills buddy, Stephen. Him and his wife Amber have this Nation Rodco.
Yeah.
I'm wearing the right blue for him. And these are great rods. This is a 6-piece, like they can go in
like a travel rod.
Very travel friendly.
And rather short, right? Like 8 something or?
Yeah, this is a 9 weight, but kind of like not a super long 9 weight.
Yeah.
And I've been doing like everything bigger than a trout with this one.
Okay.
So I landed my first carp with this one on the reservoir.
Nice.
Ashokin. I've been catching bass with it.
Yeah.
I was out on the North Fork. I got some bluefish with it. I didn't.
Got it.
Steven got the stripers. I didn't get the striper. Yeah. And then I have a big striper fly on now.
Yeah.
Because I was just in Maine doing like a bunch of book talks and a little artist residency where Andrew Wyeth, his old studio was.
Yeah.
And I had to bring this along too.
Yeah.
I was like, wow. Yeah. I can do like the whole fantasy. Like this be like painting and fishing. Because with watercolor, the paint has to dry.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, right.
So
you have time to fish.
And then of course, the stripers were all gone.
Yeah.
I was mainly like confusing a school of mackerel.
Yeah.
That would hang out by the dock every morning.
Yeah.
And be like, oh, it's one of our friends. Because at that point, it's like not that far off.
And Nation FC, do they produce their rods somewhere over here or are they made abroad?
I think they're all made in Korea.
Yep.
So they've been working on getting every little detail right.
Yep.
And then their background is in so much fashion. That's what Amber's background is. Knows that factory world.
Got it.
And has been just perfecting these.
That is a nice color on top, a little unusual. And
I know. They love the blue.
A little different from the rest. Yeah. And what kind of reel do you have on there?
This is my father-in-law's reel that I grabbed from his basement. That I think is not even the right reel for this rod.
Oh, yeah.
It's one of those like,
it's like a Sage Enforcer or something, I think.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I was very grateful.
Yeah.
That I could just grab a reel.
Yeah.
I really started fishing some of the most with my father-in-law. And he's been very generous. That kind of like, oh yeah, just grab whatever you want.
Yeah.
And I don't think this is the right reel for this.
Well, it could work. I mean, it looks about the right size, I would say.
Yeah.
Roughly.
It's worked just fine.
Yeah.
But I was like, I don't even know that much about it. I know that I just grabbed it.
Yeah. It's a nice rod. Okay, cool. So we've basically gone through your lineup. Have you ever fished a bamboo rod up here?
I have, yeah. I have a neighbor who like his buddy, he like mows for us, plows for us, and it's like really old school.
Yeah.
He's lived up here his whole life. And I don't know, at one point, like I felt like we saved his butt somehow. Something happened that like, and then his older brother showed up, and we were like, he came to the bar one night and he was like, listen, man, I got to talk to you. And it's like, oh, okay. And he like brought me to his car and was like, take a look at this. And opened up the trunk. And it was this bamboo rod from Montana. Oh. He's like, you should have it. You were good to Gary. I was like, oh, okay. I didn't know where this was going to go. So I got to fish that a little bit.
Yeah.
And then I think I was like a very new dad.
Yeah.
And I broke
the
section, and I felt really guilty about that.
Yeah.
But only a tiny bit. It happens.
Yeah. Yeah. But I mean, you talking about the action of your fiberglass rod before, I felt like, bamboo could be something for you if you enjoy that as well, because it's somewhat similar in my eyes. It's a little slower action and responsive, and for someone who fishes somewhat well, it's often a nice experience to get your hands on a bamboo.
I just even casting that rod before I, in my like a sleep deprivation haze, snapped it. I couldn't believe the movement on it.
Yeah.
And I've done going down to like the Catskill Fly Fishing Museum.
Yeah.
That whole bamboo workshop.
Yeah.
It's just beautiful.
Yeah, it is.
It smells good.
Yeah. It's a beautiful material.
Yeah. I felt so stupid when I realized, I was like, oh my God. I remember looking at bamboo rods, be like, how would they get like a bamboo sections that are so small?
Yeah.
And then you realize it's like the hexagon.
Yeah.
You're like, oh.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah, once you know. Very nice. All right, Stephen, thanks a lot for hosting us at your home and giving us an insight into your setup. And I hope we get to fish together soon.
Let's do it.
All right, thanks, man.